All right, folks, it's time to resume.
Hit the post.
Welcome to the September 9th regular city council meeting for Cross Lake. Let's stand and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any additions today?
Yes. They're attached to your, I gave you all a
Okay,
new agenda.
Okay.
For approval at the end of
do we have a motion to accept the additions to the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion, a second?
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. The consent calendar, all items here are listed, considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. Everybody look at them. Okay, do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Motion carries. Critical issues. Cindy, are you coming up for that?
I am.
All right.
My committee chair, I'm Cindy Mugato. I'm with the Brainerd Lakes Chamber, and I am here tonight to let you know that we are again planning for Cross Lake Days, Saturday, September 26th through the 28th. It kicks off on Thursday, the 26th, with our usual three-day treasure hunt. A hidden chili pepper will be located somewhere in town, and people are encouraged to go find it, with a prize basket valued at over $1,000. Donations by chamber member businesses. Friday, the Light Up the Dam Committee is having a drive-by brat sale, so I encourage you all to go have lunch on Friday. The funds help support the lighting of the dam. And then they're hosting an outdoor movie at the campground as well. The movie is The Mighty Ducks. Saturday morning, or Saturday all day actually, there'll be arts and crafts all over town. The National Loon Center is hosting a first annual loon calling contest in Town Square, so that'll be fun. We have some Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders coming to town for the event. We'll have kids games, bungee jumping, bounce houses located in the middle of town. The Cross Lake Community Center is hosting the 9th annual Disc Golf Classic. The Log Museum, the Historical Society will be hosting the Log Cider and Candlelight Tour Village Tour Saturday night. And then businesses are offering deals and discounts all over town. You can purchase a Cross Lake Days lanyard this year that will entitle you to the deals and discounts all over town. And of course, it's the 33rd annual chili cook-off, and we have 31 businesses this year vying for the judges and People's Choice trophies. Our judges will be 4 players from the Pequot Lakes Patriots football team. More than 60 businesses are participating in one way or another, and it's always a super fun weekend for both visitors and residents alike. So, per the state law, I am requesting your approval for a chili cook-off in Cross Lake on Saturday, September 28th, hosted by businesses who prepare and serve their chili at no charge to consumers.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Thank you for doing it, is the only discussion I have. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have a public hearing on a road right-of-way vacation request on Norway Trail, and I'm not sure who's taking that. Brad, are you taking that?
I can.
Try best to explain it by first showing the plat. This is an old plat. And the subject road, I believe, is right down here. And there'll be a survey that has a better blow-up of this, but this Island Avenue was platted way back in the day when this was all platted off, and that road extends to the water's edge. This survey is a blow-up of the very end of that Island Avenue. It might be called something different now, but that was how it was platted. Still that? Okay. And you can see there on the drawing, this is the water's edge down here. The physical road surface kind of tees into two people's garages or roads, and there it keeps going like that, but the proposed right-of-way would stop here if the vacation went through. So from here to the water's edge would become private ownership. Half of the title would go to the north and half of the title would go to the south. And so the process would be we gave notice to the adjacent landowners, and it would be to open a public hearing and see if there's any comments from the neighbors. Would be the first step.
And that is not part of what we're doing tonight.
No, that's.
Oh, it is?
That's what
Okay.
I'm asking you to do, is open it up and ask
Okay.
if there's anyone in the crowd that wants to speak on either for or against.
Okay, so we got a public hearing open. Does anybody want to come and talk to it?
Hi, I'm Mike Cobes, and I've been reminded, I'm at 14096, so I'm Lot 18. Can you go back to the previous one that you were showing right there? So, as you can see, by the way, I've been at this address for, it's our 22nd summer. If you look, there's actually a dotted line out to Lot 19, which is an island that is no longer there. So when we moved in, there was a little bit of an island left, but originally, if you go back and look at the drawings, that was a buildable lot, and you can see that was kind of for access for that lot. That lot was tax forfeited. The DNR would not let me purchase it because I didn't want anybody to build on it. And they said, no, you can't reclaim it. You can't put new dirt on it. You can't do anything. It's gone. So sad, too bad. So there is that little bit of roadway was for access for something that is no longer there, nor according to the DNR in my conversations can ever be there again. So what we'd like to be able to do is be able to have that land. We'll give the Neatons some much-needed land to be able to put their house or redo their house so that it's within the right boundaries, 75-foot setbacks, et cetera. And there's also never been anyone in 22 summers that has ever gone down there to use it as a public access. I understand the DNR will always say that they don't ever want to give these up. I understand the city saying, well, geez, we might use that. No one's ever going to use that for a big public access. And I'm not saying no one ever could walk down there, but frankly, right now, if you tried to walk down there, it's all full of trees and hills, and it's a 15-foot drop-off. Either Chris or Lisa or myself or my bride would just let them come on our property and put in somewhere where it was reasonable if they really wanted to bring a kayak down there. So the idea is it's never been used for an access, in my knowledge. It's too small for a big access. There is no parking. There's nobody within hundreds and hundreds of feet that would ever need it because they're all on the lake themselves. So they don't need to come down and use it. Frankly, we had a great group of people down there. If somebody wanted to, we'd let them. But the idea would be is that it just happens to be a parcel that's not needed for public access. And the main primary purpose, as you can see right on that drawing, is no longer there. There is no island anymore. So we would just like you to consider that. I understand there's going to be always objection about Lake Shore, but if there's some stipulation that we won't put a house in the middle of it or block people from getting on it, we would be happy to entertain what you need to do to feel comfortable. But the bottom line is nobody uses it for what that was there, and no one ever has. Matter of fact, normally when trees fall down or something happens, Chris and those guys have taken care of that property, or in the old days, I've taken care of the property. So that's our thoughts, and we're interested to hear what you have to say.
So Brad, what makes this different than any of the other 50 that we've talked about in the last couple of years, or?
Well, you have vacated some other ones too, and you have turned some down. I think they're all different, would be my answer. I think each time it's up to the council to notice the neighbors, find out, that's how you find out. The statute says that if there's not just lake accesses, but any access, so there's platted streets around on old plats in the city across Lake too that have never been built out as roads. And so
They're all over the place.
they're all over the place, and so the statute says that they're not being used, vacate them and put them back to private purpose. Well, you don't know if you just heard his testimony, no one ever uses it, but we want to make sure that people have the right to object and say, oh, no, I take my fish house out. We've heard different comments on each access, we hear different stories. Some are used,
I
some are
wish we could
not.
get rid of all of them.
That is a position you can take, but it's one at a time. The statute you can't make a global decision. I think you need to take these one at a time because they're all different. Each plat's different, each access is different, some are more usable than others. He says there's a drop-off, some are cliffs, some are used, some are flat. You can't talk about them globally.
So what kind of opposition has come about this?
Well, first of all, is there anybody else that wants to speak?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to make sure everyone has a chance. I don't know who else is here.
Tom Swenson, West Shore Drive. Maybe it'd be helpful if you put the minutes from both the Park Board and the Public Works on there. Both of them passed motions opposing this. The city's been dealing with this for years on these. I've got a one right behind my house. If you go down Johnny Street, it continues on right to the lake where that sharp corner is, and the people on either side say, oh, nobody ever uses it. It's a perfect place for me to watch the fireworks. It, again, has probably a 15 or 20 foot steep slope down to the lake. You can also, for those of us that don't live on the lake, as more lakeshore gets privatized, if you want to pull up on shore and eat a sandwich or something, there are these places around the lake if you know where they're at. I know where the one behind my house is. It's not the Robert Street access. It's another one that is up on a hill, and, you know, I use it with my grandkids to watch fireworks. So he may say nobody's ever used it before, but I think we're on a slippery slope when we start, you know, and the ordinance is very clear on these. If there's an access to the public water, it's not to be vacated. And I think that's where both the Public Works and the Park Board came from. And during public forum, I'm gonna have some more comments kind of related to this too.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, Council? Yep. I appreciate Tom's input on this. My name's Chris Naton, 14095. I'm the adjacent property to Mike over there. This piece of property, I get Tom's thing, there is probably some. I get his point on each one of these are probably unique in their situation. Ours, I've been there for 9 years, me and my wife, and I've never seen anybody come on it. There's really no parking in the area because it's very small anyway up there, and you guys have a hard time turning around your trucks when you plow snow. They actually drive up and a lot of times push snow up into our yards, and whatever. I'm a farm kid and a construction guy, get it. Can't back around a truck when it snowed 4 feet. So we kind of work with what you got there. It's a very minimal room down there. So there's, like I said, there's no parking for anybody to do it. And I think each one of these are unique. There's no place to watch fireworks on this. You got to look the other way. We maintain it. There's noxious weeds on it all the time. I was out last weekend doing thistles. And it's probably, I shouldn't be, according to the DNR, but the DNR never wants to give up anything. I'm sure you guys all know that. They're power-hungry people, so. I've been taking care of it for 9 years. I don't like thistles. I don't think anybody likes thistles, and they're a noxious weed, and you gotta take care of them. I've never asked the city to do anything with it, nor would I, because I'll take it on myself and take care of it. We have a really small cabin. It's 412 square feet. It's the size of a large fish house. We would love to add on a little bit, and this would be huge for us if you guys would take it under consideration. I know there is opposition to it, but we don't have a lot of options with our lot, the way it sits. And I didn't design the lot, so obviously this is a long time ago it happened. But for us, it'd be huge, and for our family, we have a lot of kids up there. And it would take liability away from the city. You know, nobody ever brings up liability, but lawyers are big deals nowadays, and that it takes away liability between the city and the private citizens. And it also builds tax base for you, adds to our lake shore and adds to our taxes. So nobody ever uses it anyway, and I agree, each one should be looked at individually. But ours, there's no proof of it's ever used, so why keep it, is, I guess, my, and it'd be very helpful to me and my family and my kids. We can maybe add on a little bit to our place, and right now our hands are kind of tied, and this is a big deal to us, so I'd
Okay.
appreciate
Thanks.
vote for it. Thank you.
So the DNR opposes it, the commissions oppose it. What do you guys think?
Well, I should probably react to the commission report. Most of that is just wrong. And I think staff was confused too, because we do have an ordinance that said you can't do this, and that's clearly against state law. So unlike what this says, I don't represent anyone here, and I don't care what the result is. So how someone thinks they know who I represent and don't is also just factually crazy. So the point is, you have to, it's like you can't create an ordinance that says we're not going to do any more variances in the city Cross Lake. It's a slippery slope. We have ordinances, we don't like variances. That's exactly what this memo is trying to say. That's asinine. You can't do it. So that doesn't mean you have to do this vacation, I don't care. But you have, the law says if somebody asks to vacate a right-of-way, you have to give them a day in court, hold a hearing, see what the public thinks, not what somebody else in the park commission thinks. What do the neighbors think in this plat? That's what the statute says you're supposed to do.
Anything from any neighbors?
I don't know, I didn't,
Did we,
yeah, it's a public hearing, that's what it's for. It's not about, but that's just so you hear that. I mean, that's not what you're supposed to be looking at. It's ask the neighbors, that's what the statute says. Even if every neighbor says, please vacate it, you can still say, no, we think the future might change, we're hesitant. You can still say no, but that's what you want to hear from is the neighbors.
okay,
I don't know who's here for neighbors, but
Mike, you gotta be down there someplace, huh?
I'm a neighbor.
All right.
Mike Reardon, 14089 Norway Trail, and if you have that plat up there, we have lot 22, so we live right next door to Chris and Lisa and across the street from Mike, and it's, I've heard the thing, well, no one uses it. Well, frankly, probably no one even knows it's there, but even if they did, it's, to use that, you would have to do a lot of work down at the lake shore, because it goes down, and then for about 30 feet, there's a big bank that's about 6 feet high. You'd have to cut through that, put in retaining walls because of the narrowness, so you'd have to do quite a bit of development there to even be able to use that, because when I say it drops off, that bank goes straight down into the lake. It's not usable the way it is, even if you wanted to. And I think I agree with your attorney's comments. Every one of these is different, but that whole area out there in the call it Daggett Channel or whatever, and Gary, you live out there. But in the wintertime, you have to be really careful out there. The ice doesn't form in all the areas, or it's really thin. And I think you want to be very careful about where you do have accesses and how you're going to use those, and would you really want to have one there, even if you could do it and pull the people out there. That, I know they go through there in snowmobiles, but that's not a real safe area of the lake. And just for usability, I think that you've got a lot of accesses around, or potential ones. You got to have some that would be actually usable and a lot better. And I think, frankly, the last piece is there's just no room down there for anyone to use that for parking or whatever. And probably if that street's ever rebuilt, it would only be maybe 18 feet, 20 feet at the most. It's very difficult down there now. And to be honest, I as a neighbor would not want to have a public access there. it just would not fit into that neighborhood situation at all, or do I see a need for it? I certainly see a need for the Neatons to be able to further develop their properties there. I think that would be a benefit to them and ultimately to the city. So we're very supportive of this vacation for all those reasons. And unless you're going to turn it into an area access, everyone down that area already has access to the lake, whether it's kayaks or canoes or whatever. We don't need more access. You'd be pulling in a lot of outsiders that would even want to use that, and I guess I don't think that would be a good idea for our neighborhood.
Thanks, Mike.
Tom DeQuatro. I'm lot 17, and I have another lot a little bit up the road from there. I agree with pretty much, everything you just said there. I have concerns if this was ever developed and turned into an access. Some of my areas where I park in, people would just park cars there, and there would be a lot of issues down there. You would have to do a tremendous amount of work to even get this to be turned around, first of all. So I support to vacate this. So, and I
Okay.
know there's other neighbors around us that are not here that I support it as well, so.
So did you send a mailing out to all the people in 300 feet or something of this thing?
On that plat, yeah.
Everybody on the plat? And nobody wrote in?
I don't know. I don't receive the comments.
Nobody
So
wrote
you're
it.
asking me, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I agree. Why
That's
do
a
we?
very cleverly hidden access down there, even for foot.
And it was in 1946 the plat was made? I think that's what I just read.
I can't tell. I can find out. Yes.
I don't know. We deal with these things all the time, and it's always the same thing, and I wish we didn't have any of them.
So why does it say on the plat that donating and dedicating to public use forever?
That's how everyone always is.
So,
So again, by law,
Right.
plats get done back in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. They have a concept of a street layout or lake access, or there's different types of dedications. We've seen some weirder ones with like public beaches. There's lots of things you can dedicate. But the statute very clearly says things change. Things develop in different ways than someone anticipated in the 50s. And so the people on the plat have the right to petition the city or the local jurisdiction, sometimes the township, sometimes the county, whoever is the local jurisdiction of where that plat is, saying there's no public benefit, it's not being used for the purpose that was intended when it was platted, and you should vacate it. I've been to 400 of these. Everyone's different. Usually there's some people in opposition. I guess so far we haven't heard any. Normally there is. And then it's up to the council to decide, usually like with the assessment or other things we have hearings on, there's usually some for it and there's some against it, and it's tough. You guys got to make a tough decision always. But the point is the law says you have to have a hearing if somebody asks for it and goes through the petition process.
how do we get around
That doesn't mean you have to say yes,
how
but
do we get around our city code?
the city code is, I told staff that, it's just patently illegal. I've been saying that ever since I got here.
Why do we still have it then?
I've asked staff to remove it. I don't know why it hasn't been yet. But you
So
can't,
we can't write a city code like that?
no. Well, again, just like the statute allows people to have variances or conditional use permits or all kinds of land use things, you can't, they have a statutory right. The council can't, that's one concept. A second concept is every council changes. So a council in 2004 sure in the heck can't bind what this council of 2019 wants to do. That's just contrary to all public policy. So that's why people have elections. You vote, and these 5 people are now our council. So you alone, not some past council, not some past commission or staff, make the decision. Nobody else.
So
Other
would it-
people can recommend or make comments, that's what you've heard some of, but only, it's the 5 people here that make the call.
So we're going to have, if we approve this, we're going to have 50-plus people coming in here in the next year to vacate.
Well, we've had 4 since I've been city attorney. This is not new. 1, I think, was approved, and 3 were shot down. So
So would it be
But-
a smart thing for us to do, say that it requires 2/3 of the people in that development to approve it? I mean, just so we got something to stand on, and send them back and say, get signatures from 2/3 of the property owners?
No. The statute says you give notice to landowners. They can comment if they want, they don't have to. It comes back to the council. Just with all land use planning or
Trying to find a
assessment,
bush to hide behind here, buddy.
it comes down to, I know that, but your job is to take comment from the public, but it's not the public's decision. It's the city council decision. And you can table it, you can deny it, you can approve it. But your job is to, you have to hold a hearing. The
Yep.
law requires it. What you do, you have the discretion to say no, that's for sure. Even if everyone in the neighborhood says yes, which I think they just did, you can still say, no, we don't want to do it now. Maybe next year. That's up to you.
My feelings about these things is they're just a pain all the time, and they keep coming back. If we gave it away, we'd get a little addition on the tax roll. I hate to kind of go against the commission, and Tom, I agree, but if there's any benefit for the thing, I'd say we should reserve it, but it doesn't appear that there is any, so that's kind of how I feel about it.
How big a chunk of property is this? I mean, I've looked at,
It's 33 feet wide, and
33 feet by, it depends where the water's edge is, but approximately 150 feet.
100, yeah.
so each one would benefit by basically 16 feet by 100 feet,
Or 150 feet,
150 feet.
yes.
Okay, I think Dale's coming up to say something.
But again, just because you think it might, I'm not saying you even are, I haven't heard all of you comment, but there's no slippery slope either way. Whether you vote no, that doesn't mean somebody shouldn't apply again. They should if they want to.
Yeah.
Or if you say yes, that doesn't mean 10 people should apply, because every one of these is very different. Slope, landowners, use, area of town, type of lakeshore. You can't make, by law, you have to treat them all unique, just like a variance. If somebody wants a variance, by definition, they're all different. You can't just say, we don't like variances, or we do. You got to hear the facts and make a call. You can't, it's up to the council. You can't let somebody else.
Let's hear from Mr. Milberg. Come on, Dale.
Dale Milberg, 12644 Anchor Point Road. No, I hear the comment that no one benefits from this, but the fish do, wildlife does. The lake benefits when there's undeveloped shoreline. And the shoreline is disappearing at a rapid rate, and these access points provide a very natural setting for the lake, and the fish love them. They don't love rip-rap shoreline.
So, in response to that, could you put a condition that within 30 feet of the lake, you can't touch it?
Well,
I mean,
couple-
that's a good point, and I
Well,
agree
couple
with
things.
Dale.
I think that logic is true, by the way, but there's always priorities. Every council member has their own priorities of there's competing interests here.
We'll agree not
Yeah.
to rip-rap the 33 feet.
Yeah, the other comment is, and I've said this at past vacations, but that's up to council. You've heard this landowner, but every vacation some vacations you reserve utilities. I think with Ted, we've done that before, where we decided we didn't need a full street access there, but we wanted to reserve the right for future utilities. You could reserve, require it that it stay in a natural vegetative state for the first 50 feet up to the lake, or you can put restrictions on it like that, yes, but it would become private ownership. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I've heard many arguments pro and against. There's not a right answer. I mean, that's a policy decision of the council members.
We don't believe you can't build a building 75 feet of shoreline. So if you said, hey, we have to leave this wild from whatever it is, ordinary high water mark, or whatever the term is, to 50 feet or 75 feet, that's fine. We don't need to rip-rap it. So I'm not disagreeing. He's right from a standpoint, but nobody's going to put a dock out there or whatever, and we're happy to have that stipulated if that will make you guys feel better about the decision, so that it's not going to hurt the lake.
Do you remember when we last vacated land to the lake? I remember one down here where
We had one on
vacated down
Manhattan
in a
Point.
development, but it never ended in the lake.
Manhattan Point, we had one. I don't know what year that was.
But not
5 years?
not
I
in the
mean,
last
that's it.
5
Sounds
years.
about right.
Yeah.
We never gave away an inch of Lake Shore.
We vacated a triangular piece, I don't remember where it was, within the last 2 years.
Down here, though, but it was at the end of,
Dagon Pine Road?
yeah, further out, and
Yeah.
Similar to
it
this.
never
one.
went to the lake, though.
Oh, yeah.
Never went to the lake.
John?
In my time here in the 6 years, you vacated one portion out on Manhattan Point for Bilski's where they had corrected a rounded corner that gave access down to
Around
the
their
lake, but
house,
you
right.
left the access itself. Well, they vacated a small portion by Manhattan Point Boulevard, and then they had a use agreement because once you stepped off the last step on their porch, you were in the right-of-way. So they got a use agreement there. We had another one out on Daggett in Pine. We did one out there where you gave a use agreement because their well was in the road in the right-of-way. And the same thing, the corner of their house was like 2 feet away from the right-of-way.
Do you have an opinion on a solution for this? Or what is your opinion on it?
My opinion is you guys have a hard decision to make.
And I should,
Thanks, Joe.
I should make clear too, the applicant, you have to apply for something, but it's the city's decision, not the applicant's decision. So John just gave some other, but again, you can't, that doesn't tell you how to do this one, because again, I keep saying this, but they're all different. But he asked for the west edge to be where it is and the east edge to be at the water's edge. That doesn't mean that's what you're gonna grant. So you could just say that the vacation stops 50 feet or 75 feet from the lake too, and just keep it public. I'm not sure what the difference is from a practical standpoint if you had a conservation easement on it, but that's a policy decision again. If you want it to be public from just a policy standpoint, that's up to you to decide, but the statute allows you to say, I don't really care if no one uses it, the future's forever. We don't want to do it quite yet. But you could modify the request too. You could say no one full, you could hybrid it. Am I making
Vacated
sense?
all but the last 50 feet from the lake or 70 feet?
And I don't know if they want that.
Sure that nothing would be done, you know, but
See, we have these all over on Manhattan Point, and there's a lot of people that don't know they exist.
I think
There's
staff
a
gave
lot
a
of
count,
them-
there's 63 or something, I
There's
remember.
a lot of them that are much higher elevation than this, and there's a lot of them that people
we've
don't
talked
use.
a lot about
Yeah.
getting rid of them,
So,
you know, 'cause
I'm
they,
just-
they take a lot of time.
I don't know if I should be the bad guy, but I'll make a motion that we deny it.
We would agree to that 50 feet or whatever you're looking at for non-development, so I want to reiterate that. And I think this isn't going to cause a flood of people to come in, and if you deny it, you deny it, but it's not getting used, and you're going to get more tax dollars if you're spending a few bucks to do this, so I really hope that the rest of you at least will consider it.
Okay,
We have to
motion.
have a second now before there can be any further discussion.
So we got a
And I'll
motion.
second that so that we
Second.
can discuss.
Okay, more discussion.
Okay.
Do you need to close the public hearing?
Okay, the public hearing's closed. Well, I don't, you know, at some point in time, we got to talk about all these things and decide what to do. They
We
keep
we
coming.
have, since I've been on the council, and these are, the council's been leaning in the direction of not giving any of these away. Because we don't know what the future holds.
I thought the council was leaning in the direction of deciding which ones would benefit the community and keeping and improving them. And
That must be way down on the list of things to do, because it hasn't surfaced.
I think this is to talk about on a greater scale as a workshop day.
Could be, right?
But this one here, I think we need to, obviously, we need to do something.
I'm just worried we're going to end up with more coming in.
Okay, well,
You got a
we
motion
got a
and a
motion
second.
and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get,
I'm just not gonna.
You need a roll?
Aye.
Schrupp,
To deny it, yes, was the
Yep,
motion.
deny.
Okay,
Andrews?
I agree.
I don't really want to go either way. Can I do that? Well, then I guess I disagree with it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a no.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, 4-1.
Sorry, but
Okay.
Well, I wish we would talk about them sometime and do something.
I think it needs to be a workshop where you talk
But the
about it
Park
on
and
a
Rec,
greater
TJ
basis
spends
for
a ton
people.
of time on them, you know?
Ted has something.
We've been talking about it my whole career here, 20 years.
Yeah.
Talkings should be done. It's time for you guys to take some action and get it done. TJ and I are sitting here, and we've got a half a dozen of these right now, where people are looking at us for answers, and we don't have the direction from you. We need that direction. We have to have that workshop, and you guys got to act upon it.
So if you and I were in the fish house and I said, Ted, what do you think? What should we do with these things? What would your answer be?
Right now,
Yeah.
I'd give them all away.
Okay.
That's just me.
I rest my case. Well, we'll talk about them.
Well, winter's
I mean,
here.
they just keep coming up and they're,
Winter's here, and it's a good time for a
Yeah.
workshop.
so don't give up on it. We'll talk about it. Okay, next, public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on an agenda of future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address, and each speaker is given 3 minutes. Anybody have anything?
My name's Gary Hecox. Anyway, we get a lot of requests up here at the public forum for different things, and there's no meat and potatoes to the requests. All these requests should go through either Public Works, EDA, and should be ironed out with at least probably a 10-year guide as to how much money the city's going to spend, what we're going to spend it on, and so on. These people need to come to Public Works or Park Commission or someplace else and present their case to the liaisons there and to those committees.
Can I interrupt you, though, and ask you to be a little more specific? Because you said everything that comes to public forum.
I don't mean everything. I mean, people can come up and they can talk, but no action is going to be taken. And if these people are asking the city to spend money, it has to go back to the commissions. And there has to be some guide to what's going to be, what the outcome is to the city and to the taxpayers.
Okay. Is that it?
We shouldn't be dropping things off on Mike's desk and somebody else's desk and having them present. There needs to be a rule as to how it's going to happen.
Okay, done?
Done.
Anybody else?
Mike Reardon, 14089 Norway Trail, and Gary, I'm going to drop something on you and the council. I'm going to hand you an original and a copy. There's a copy for maybe you, Brad. Original to the mayor. And there's, I don't know if you'd call these petitions or not. You might consider them that, but we've gone through the neighborhood on Norway Trail, both the gravel section and the paved section. And they're labeled, and there's number 1 and number 2. And then the third one is Brook Street from Daggett Bay Road south to Norway Trail. And asked the property owners out there if they were interested in having city sewer extended out to their properties. So this was a question earlier, does the public support that or not? What I do very briefly, I've got one summary sheet on the top there which describes at Norway Trail, the gravel piece, there's 17 properties. The paved trail in the east, there's 11 properties. Brook Street, 7 properties. Now, of those, the west section, the gravel property, 8 desire sewer to be installed of the 17. 2 do not want it, for probably could guess at reasons. And then either 2 want more information before answering, or there's another 5 that we were unable to contact. I mean, it's tough to get people that are seasonal. For the east end of Norway Trail, there's 11 properties, 8 desire sewer to be installed, and 3 do not know or need more information. So the majority there We'd like to have that done. Brook Street, pretty short. One would desire sewer. Of the 7 properties, one would desire it, one would not, and the other 5 either don't know. 4 of them we weren't able to contact. I mean, they're just out of the area. So this gives you some sense of the feeling down in that area, but I think this says we'd like to have sewer installed. So the first page is a summary. The second, I got 3 packets there, 1, 2, and 3, for the 3 different streets with signatures on there. Some wrote in comments, and there's a little map with each one. So if you are wondering what to do about sewer, this should give you some sense. And if you're looking at a 429 process, I don't know that I'd call this a petition because we didn't label it as a petition, but it's a show of interest for sewer being extended down there. I'm sure you could probably construe this to be similar to a petition, if not a petition.
Okay, I think that should probably go to Public Works.
Yeah, I mean, you've got
Yeah.
a process to follow if you want to do that, and this shows that we're interested in having sewer down there, I believe, the
Okay,
majority.
I've heard that. It's good to see it. Thanks, Mike. Tom? Oh, we've got another one. Come on.
Hey, Mrs. Mike, I got a lot of between Chris and I, we talked to a lot of people. Just for the 3 no's that you got, that's 3 lots, but it's just 1 property owner. There was only 1 person of the whole 25 we talked to that said no.
Okay,
Thank you.
yep.
14089 Norway Trail.
All right, thanks.
I'll start off by apologizing to Brad in advance because I was under the impression, and it's stated in the Public Works agenda, that you were working for the petitioners. But I do have a question on the certificate of survey. It said it's requested by Breen in person, and in the application for a vacation, it says a certificate of survey must be submitted with the right-of-way vacation application according to Chapter 42 of the city ordinance. City staff, i.e. Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and city attorney will coordinate with the applicant to determine what information below is required on the survey, and then there's a whole list of things. I guess my question is, if you ordered this, who paid for it?
Mike Dobbs.
Okay, so are you acting as the city attorney, or are you acting on their behalf to order a survey on their behalf?
They wanted to apply for a vacation, and I said, we're not going to look at one unless you have a survey. And they asked me to get them whatever you need to submit the application.
Okay, and then bill them. And then my other question, I guess, is the notices that went out on this are being sent out by the city attorney's office. In the past, either city staff or the planning and zoning department sent out notices. I'm just wondering if, as a cost saving, or where it turned over to where the city attorney is doing all this and
I'd love it if Shar does, that's fine.
billing the city. I mean, right now, the application is only $500, and $500 doesn't go very far when the city attorney's office is getting involved in mailing notices and ordering surveys. And my last thing, and here's where I apologize, because I was loaded for bear if you were representing both of them. But in the past, during my 15 and a half years, about every 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, the city always went out for requests for proposals for both engineering and legal services. The city, you know, I'm aware the city on engineering appears to be asking for proposals almost on an annual basis, but I'm not aware that there's been a request for proposal for legal services in the 6.5 years since Breen in person has taken over. And I would just requests the council consider. Maybe it's time to do a request for proposal for, or legal services. This is a good time of year to do it, and it'll take a couple months to do it, interview people, and then you can, and maybe Breen Person is the most qualified and gives you the best rate. Maybe they're not. But take that for what it's worth.
Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll assure Tom if there's any cost to you, I don't even know you, so.
I know you don't.
If there's any cost that the city inquired for us trying to get this through, I'm sure me and Mike can take care of it, so, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll close public forum. Now we got the mayor and council members' report, so I'll start with mine. There's going to be a groundbreaking ceremony for the new City Hall facility on September 20th at 10 a.m. If anybody wants to come and see what's going on, there should be a rendition of the building there. And so I guess that's one announcement. The other one is tomorrow they're going to be burning at the city property. So it's going to be smoky, and there's going to be some phone calls, but it's going to probably be all day long. I should sit in the office tomorrow? Forward them to me. And then the other thing I'd like to request, because I've had a lot of questions in the view of being open and letting everybody know what's going on, if we could do some kind of online, people say that they don't know what the city hall looks like. The new building is going to look like.
If I can send something.
So they're going to have something out there, but maybe we should have something here or put a little thing in the paper or something, I don't know. Just to,
Get it online. If
you don't have anything online?
If Andy wants to send me the newest,
Yeah, but maybe we should do that,
we can
just
put it
to
on the homepage.
satisfy. Okay, that's all I have. What do you guys have? Nothing? Close the mayor's, Mike, city administrator report.
Okay, thank you. Before you as item 1, you have a resolution approving the preliminary 2019 collectible 2020 tax levy. And what this is, it's the result of 2 meetings, one that was held on August 8th and one on September 5th. So unless you have any additional questions regarding the levy that we've come up with, I would request a motion and a second to move forward with this as a preliminary levy.
So move.
Okay, we got a motion.
Put that up on the screen if you would.
What number is it? Could you help me with that?
G1.
Good. Sorry.
I'll second it with a question. Is this 2% higher than what we think we need?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the levy is, so discussion on that. The levy is set high. We're gonna, the final levy is in December.
Correct.
We gotta do our final deal, so we go a little high and check things out and set the final levy in December. So that's what we're approving. So we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item G2 under my report is a memo from the clerk regarding the fee schedule we just talked about. It's real easy to, yeah, we're asking the fee schedule for road vacations be adjusted from $500 to $1,000. By the time we get through the committee meetings, we've far exceeded that number. So we're not trying to make money on this, we're trying to recover our costs, or at least not lose as much. So the request is to adjust the fee schedule for road vacations from $500 to $1,000.
How often does this come up, Mike?
This would be number 5,
This year or
not this year.
No, like in the
In
last
total.
6 years, probably.
number 5?
So
Doesn't come up very often.
what do we have to pay for?
We have to pay for attorney fees, we have to pay for staff time, we have to pay for meetings, meeting time for commissioners to go look at the site,
Mailing,
mailings, publications.
is 1,000 enough? Have you worked out a,
We
that's
think-
my concern.
We think it is. We think it's fairly good middle ground. Some will be more, some will be less. So the request is council permission to adjust the schedule as stated.
And this would be effective, what, January 1st?
No.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, well, that was my question. Okay. Also move.
Okay, we got a motion?
I'll second it.
Second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries, Shar.
Come on up, John. I'm going to let John Colstead handle item 3. It's a memo regarding a property infringement.
Do you have that survey to start with? So just want to let you know, whenever we have encroachment into the road right-of-ways, there's a process. Go and ask them to move, get off. You guys have the opportunity to either proceed with enforcement action to get them to move off of get all their improvements off of the road right-of-way with access down to the lake, or you can provide a use agreement. Our recommendation, or what we're asking for right now is for the city council to let me know, do you want me to proceed at this point with filing a notice of violation that they have improvements on the road right-of-way? And the way that we set it up in the enforcement part of the ordinance that we have is that they would have 14 days to remove all improvements off of the site and keep them off from this point forward. Now, we've had others that have had improvements and they've had yards, and you've allowed them to have access around the house so they can get around it. One of them was so they could even paint on the property because the corner of the house was right on the line. So do you want me to move forward with sending them a notice of violation so that they remove all the wood piles and everything else that they have stored on this property for Norway Trail, where they just asked for a vacation? Yeah.
That aerial picture, what's the green thing right in the middle of it?
I went through and looked at every plat that was a lake plat in the city of Cross Lake, and wherever they had a road access that terminated in the water, I made that little green dot on
so
there.
that's you.
That's me showing that
not a
that is
swimming
an
pool,
access
right?
to the lake. And if you come and stand at the counter with me, I'll click on each one of them and tell you when it was established, how wide it is, and some of them have been vacated, the information that I was able to find in the past. Some have been vacated, some have been vacated by a judge. Others, one of them just recently we moved. They had access that went to the lake and found out that their cabin was built in the access. So we went through the works and they moved the access from one side of their lot to the other. It's still there, but their cabin now is not in the middle of it. So I just indicated where everyone is at so that they're easy to find while we're looking. Now, this is pictures I took, or I just took. I went out and based on the DNR letter that we got that said about the wood piles. So this stake right here is the property line. There's their meters, but this wood pile is right in the middle of the 33-foot access. You can kind of see right here, this corner of the trailer is right on the line. And so they have a bunch of stuff piled up here that is actually in the access. They've developed all the land down here. They mow it, take care of it. In the past, we've said, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to cut trees. You're not supposed to put a lawn in. You're not supposed to have sprinklers in there. I don't know if they have sprinklers because I didn't walk down it. But here is a shot, and actually the other stake is supposed to be over here, but it got pulled out of the ground and someone laid it on top of the wood pile. I went out and I measured from this stake that's over here 33 feet across, and this is where the other edge of the right-of-way is at.
Well, I would say it should be cleared off of there until something's figured out with it, but if it's a public right-of-way, they shouldn't be using it.
So, and I can allow, I will certainly write in there that they have the option to come to the city and ask for a use agreement if they have areas that, they've been using forever and feel that it's necessary for them to
But
continue
to Dale's
using.
point, they shouldn't be mowing it, and, it should be going back natural.
We've
so,
kicked other people off and told them they had to stop doing that.
Yeah.
So that electric service is in the middle of?
There's an electrical service right in the middle of it, yes.
Right in the middle of the right of way.
So what we're looking for, I guess, is it a motion to proceed with a notice of violation?
We've done it elsewhere, we should do it here. It should be
Yeah.
consistency.
No, we gotta. Okay, is that a motion? Okay, Aaron makes a motion. Have a second?
What was the motion again?
To follow John's direction and
I'll second.
Vacate the right-of-way.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, Sharon.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item under my report is a memo from the Personnel Committee, which consists of Councilmember Hecox, Mayor Nevin, myself, and Chief Lee. Back in August, we reviewed the health insurance renewal, which happens every year. And it was the unanimous recommendation of the Personnel Committee to renew the city's health insurance contract through Resource Training and Solutions, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for calendar 2020. The 2020 renewal represents about a 7.5% increase in insurance rates. Deductibles and related coverages remain essentially the same. So our deductible and the benefits we have to provide staff in accordance with both union contracts doesn't change. The only thing that does change is the rate, which they seem to always go up. Last year, our renewal was the minimum rate adjustment of 5%. This year, it's 7.5%. When we had our insurance agent come in and present this to us at that meeting, his recommendation is that we follow this too and renew it at this time. It comes to about $30 a month for a family policy. So what we're looking for is
It never goes down, does it?
Nope.
no.
I think mine this past year went up about 20-some%. So $30 is cheap. I move we approve it.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve.
A second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
Okay, commission reports, TJ?
Mayor, Council, number one underneath my staff report, titled Update Library Policy Manual. You'll see it attached to my report. Jane, along with 3 or 4 other volunteers from the library, took a look at the library policy manual and made some adjustments, and it was recommended by the Parks and Library Commission to approve updates made in the manual.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Okay, we've got a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 2, underneath my staff report, titled Personnel, it was a recommendation from the Personnel Committee to fill the budgeted park maintenance position that is left vacant after Ron Harkin retired. So now I'm currently sitting with only 1 full-time maintenance staff.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to number 3, Parks and Rec capital outlay. I have a recommendation to reallocate funds within my 2019-2020 budget. I want to shift some things around. I'm not asking for any more money. I just want to shift some things around to make the projects work that I have going ahead this year and as well as next year. So if you want some examples.
Yeah.
To replace the carpet in the office and to put rubber down in the weight room or the exercise room. It's above the 10,000. It's going to be right around the 14,000 mark. I want to pull some funds out of the resurfacing of the tennis courts which is set at 12,000, and we have received a bid that is above 12,000, so we're going to push that into 2020 and take some projects into 2020, shift them down a bit so we can pay for the tennis project. So everything is going to fit, we're going to get everything done, and the prices stay the same for
Is the
the
carpet
budget.
wore out and are the mats shot?
Right now, we have carpet in our exercise room, and if that doesn't kind of gross you out when sweat drips on carpet, you can't really get it up very easy. In our free weight room, we have rubber, so we want to transition that to rubber as well. And then our office, it's pretty old, and it's starting to peel in corners, and it needs replacing.
All right, I'll
I
take
so
your word
move.
for it.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Moving on to notable updates. Multipurpose recreational courts. Last week, WSN surveyed the proposed court area and surrounding site improvements. The next step will be moving on to staking of the plan, as well as a donation that rolled in not too long ago last week. The Greater Cross Lake Area Foundation donated an additional $2,500, which their total donation comes to $5,000 that they've made towards this project.
And how many total dollars have been donated to it?
I don't want to say on record specifically what amount for sure, because we still have to add it up with PAL. Last time I checked, it was right around the 20,000 mark, so.
And is that for the basketball and pickleball courts
Correct.
specifically?
Majority of that is for the pickleball, towards the pickleball.
Is that 2,500 going to PAL?
Correct. Yes, the donation was made towards PAL.
Last month, that pickleball kind of came at us kind of unannounced. Did that properly go through the channels of the commission to get here?
We discussed it in the commission numerous times, the project. My staff report last month, I had a plan, it kind of got thrown off. That was never addressed in the commission, if that's what you're asking. But this plan, this project was talked about numerous times in the commission.
Yeah, it just got kind of pushed up on the schedule a little bit.
So are you going to put pickleball where you have the Class 5 now?
Correct.
And is that where you put the skating rink?
Correct. We're planning on putting that on the east side of the warming house now.
And that's where you were thinking of rejuvenating the lighting?
Correct.
Okay. How's that coming?
I talked to a Crowing Power accountant. They're going to look at their funds, what we have in that fund, to see if they can essentially pay for that lighting for us. So,
Are you going to use the warming house or not?
yes.
Oh, you
Yep.
are?
We used it last year.
Oh, okay.
Yep, worked really well.
It's in decent shape,
Mm-hmm.
is it?
Yep. So that was just an update. Moving on to library book sale. Our year-to-date revenue totaling, as well as the last one that we just had this past weekend, totals to $4,511. I want to say a huge thank you to all the volunteers who put that on. That goes right into our library reserves, that one day, if we're ever worried that the Kichigami money fails to go in our funding, that we'll have that as a backup to fund books in our library. So thank you to the volunteers. Lastly, library, the community school students, I just want to give an update. Last year, they visited our library on Tuesdays, and this year they will be switching to Wednesdays. And I just want to let the public know, because some library users like to avoid that period of time when it was really busy, so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, John, planning and zoning?
Good evening. I have two items for you. The first one is adding a road name to your master road name index. We had a request for a new house to be built right across from Albinson Road. And that road, it's hard to see on here, but it comes up. There are already two addresses on that driveway, so now there's going to be a third. So anytime there's a third address on a driveway, it has to become a named road. They have chosen Caribou Trail. The county has approved that name, and we need a motion from you to add it to the road index so that we can then go and give them new addresses and order the signs.
That's an existing road, no change to it?
It's an existing driveway, it just needs to become a named road. It'll be private, the city won't be responsible for maintenance or anything on it.
I so move.
Second.
That also includes the publication in summary form?
Oh, sorry.
Ordinance amendment?
Yes, all the changes that need to go along with that.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second, like good? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries.
My second item is, I had been asked for an update to the changes that we would be doing to the septic part of the ordinance. And just to remind you, back in June, the Water Quality Committee came forward with proposed language to change our ordinance. And I brought this, I went through what our ordinance says and what the state says, and I actually asked the state septic person his opinion on the wording on here. And he had some definite opinion about it. The first part of it, and I brought this already to the Planning Commission and chatted with them about it, and I think I got they didn't make a motion or anything or try to bring anything forward to you, but I got them all, they were all nodding in agreement with me. Part of the issue that we have is in the change to the ordinance here, it talks about a city licensed septic maintenance business. The city isn't in the business of licensing maintenance people, so we need to change that to state. We get into calling it an inspection. And I want to clarify, there's a huge difference in the septic world between an inspection and a maintenance check. An inspection is a compliance inspection. You have to be a certified person from the state of Minnesota, licensed by the state. You go out and you do soil borings out by the drain field. You check to see if the drain field meets separation from groundwater. You're looking in the tank. You're looking at everything that's with that septic system, and you're certifying that it is conforming and in compliance with the rules of when it was put in, and it still is functioning the way that it should. A maintenance inspection, which they talked about from the Water Quality Committee, is basically going out and looking in the tank, making sure it's still watertight, making sure the baffles are still in place, and sucking any sludge out of the bottom of it. Two entirely, completely different things. So making a change in any proposed language would have to call it a maintenance check, not an inspection, because they're not doing an inspection. And there's a big difference between what the certified inspector does and what the maintainer does and what they're qualified to do. And that's what this was for, was just to kind of include, and you'd be happy to give each of you a copy if you have interest in that. So what we'd actually look at is something similar to this of changing this to a state license maintenance business, looking at just doing the maintenance on the system and looking at how much sludge is in there and does it need to be pumped out. So a few other things that got brought up is, have we talked to the maintainers in the area? Do they have, if we institute this requirement, do they have the trucks and the people and the place to spread the sewage available to add about 1,000 maintenance inspections and pump outs every year just from the city of Cross Lake? I know I haven't talked to them. I don't know if anybody else has. So I think that's the next step is let's talk to them and find out where they're at and what they can do. We just need to set up a time and sit down and talk with them. I know they're busy now, so we need to probably get on their calendar. The other piece is we're saying that if they have the system, the maintenance and check done on it, and they pump it out, we're putting the onus in this language on the maintainer, on that guy that's out there pumping the truck and the business, to submit the information to the city so that we can track it. We don't have any way, if that maintainer doesn't do his job, we don't have any way in our code and in our enforcement area to go after that maintainer that doesn't have a business here in the city of Cross Lake. We can go after the property owner and say, you didn't submit or you didn't meet the timeline. So I would propose that instead of putting this on the maintenance business, that we put it on the property owner, because then we can go after the property
I
owner
agree.
and say, you did not do
Yeah.
what you were supposed to do.
And they've got to have an agreement with the maintainer.
Yes. So I just something, and I brought this for the planning commission, and we're going to take a look at it and make some suggestions too. So that's kind of where we're at. I think the next step that we want to look at is, do we really want to jump into this with both feet? I think it's a good idea to look at this, but where is the real problem with septic systems in the city that you want to make sure that everybody's pumping these, every single one of them? And there's in excess of 3,500 septic systems in the city.
So how many are on the lake? I mean,
I'd
half
have
of
to
them?
do
Half of them?
more than half. I would say probably 2/3 at least. Is that the route you want to go? Jump in with both feet, and all of a sudden we have this huge new process that we have to handle. I think, I go back to my time in the military, it was always crawl, walk, run. How do you start out crawling with this? And I think maybe one of the ways to start out crawling with this, to make sure that it works the ways you're talking about regulating and licensing VRBOs and Airbnbs. Maybe we put the onus on them first, because really they're the ones that, they've got the 3-bedroom house that they're stuffing 25 people in for a week at a time. Their system is the one that's going to get overloaded, not the guy that has a 2-bedroom cabin and he's up there 3 days out of the whole week, or 3 weeks out of the whole year. That's not the problem system. The problem systems are these ones that are just overloaded with way too many people there. Now, we're going to be meeting with the county on the 19th of September. They're also looking at regulating VRBOs. They're purchasing software that, instead of having someone sit down and typing out and searching on the VRBO websites and looking for rentals, the software is supposed to do the searching for that. I would recommend that you guys kind of sit back and you see what happens with that. Is that good enough to start? And then instituting, maybe we need to tell these people that you want to have a VRBO, and the county is proposing this initially, I believe, is that you have a 3-bedroom house, your septic system has to be sized for a 4-bedroom house, because you have all those extra people that are in there, and the overload is going to maybe be handled. There's another way to do it, is make them do exactly what a resort has to do. If they have a cabin on a resort, and they say that you can sleep 15 people in there, then every person is worth 50 gallons of water a day, so your system has to be sized for the number of people that you say can stay in there. So if you get somebody that stuffs 20 people in a house, they have to have a system that is equivalent to a 7-bedroom system put in on their property. So there's a couple ways to go. There's things to think about it, what you want to do. But I would say let's kind of sit back and see what the county says on the 19th. We'll still proceed forward with looking at changes and how things are going to happen. But so crawling is starting out with the VRBOs. Maybe you include businesses that are on the water. So the restaurants and the other businesses, because they're another one that's easy for us to see. We know where they're at. We know what's going on. And it's something that we can say, you need to have a compliance inspection every 3 years. Not just the maintenance check, but the full compliance inspection, so that we know that your system is functioning the way it's supposed to, and it's not leaking and getting into the water. Because from what I understand from the Water Quality Committee, that was their major #1 concern, was water quality. So go after the ones that might be polluting.
They mentioned the same things that you.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I would say that, and I'd be willing to talk to Dave Fisher from the Water Quality Group. We actually talked to the North Oaks people, and they described going from nothing to walking. And I don't know if you've had that discussion with Dave or not, but
no, I haven't.
He can reiterate, if you have time, how North Oaks got up to speed. And they said it was hard at first getting the system up, getting all the list of the residents, locating everything, but once that was done, and they got going, then it was only 1 or 2 hours a month.
Sure.
Just to record and do some follow-up on some stuff, but getting going was the hardest part.
So on September 19th, the county is going to have a little workshop, I guess you'd call it, at
Yes.
Breezy Point, and Mike and John and myself and 2 or 3 of the VRBO committee members are going to go to it. So,
And we want to see what they have to,
Sure,
what they want to,
yeah.
how they're starting this process out and what their thoughts
and
are.
we'll leave that with some kind of direction.
And it's going to be countywide to start,
Oh,
so
good,
it's,
right.
I think it's a good start. So, and we always have people that come and say to us, too, what I'm showing up here is, these are the failures that we've had over the last 6 years that I've been here. There have been 23 failed septic systems that have been submitted to us out of 867, so with a 2.65% failure rate over the whole 6 years. I went through and I looked at what each one was. Is it a riparian lot or a non-riparian? Why did it fail? And was it an imminent threat to public health? So imminent threat to public health is when they have sewage coming to the surface.
Why was the failure brought to your attention?
Because they had a compliance inspection done, whether it was a property transfer or they wanted a permit, and they found out that their
So
system
what
was failing.
percentage do you think of the people that you hit on that 23? I mean, are you
Well-
25% of the people?
Overall, no, I don't, not
Are
with
are having a
800.
compliance check? Do you understand what I'm saying? Question?
Well, anytime there's a property transfer, you have to have a compliance
But do you
inspection.
think it affects 25% of the properties? Maybe? A permit?
In a 6-year period, that might be 25 to 30%.
And there's probably 50% of them that never get checked, and they're old family.
We're
long-term.
finding a lot of them that are. On this list, there's one of these in 2018 that was a cesspool. He had 2 cesspools in the backyard. We had another one that was a block tank. Those aren't allowed anymore unless it's water tested
So there is
afterwards.
value to go out and check these things over time, whenever we can, because there are some that.
I can't disagree
They don't
with
know where
you.
they are. you know?
But I don't think jumping in and doing 1,000
Yep,
in 1
I
year
agree.
is the way to start.
Right.
So
You can't inspect them, right?
right now, I can't. I have to get all the mentoring done.
So that's a limit right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but over time, we'll get there.
But it looks like you had 23 failures and 10 of them were riparian.
Correct.
So that's pretty close to half.
And the ones that were cesspools or the block tank were actually non-riparian, so they didn't get checked in 2000 when everybody went around and did that project. So I guess just the update is we're proceeding forward, we're doing research. We want to get the language correct because the MPCA has to do, they get a 30-day review period if we do any changes to the septic part of the ordinance. And we want to make sure that going to them right away, it's correct and we don't have to get it back and start over again.
So there
And
is probably room for one more person to go on that on the 19th, if anybody's got any interest.
I won't be here.
I can't.
But, yeah.
so, I guess the last thing I have is I would encourage any of you, if you have any questions, and I tell this to the planning commission every month, if you have any questions, if you hear something that's going on and you want to look at the permit, it's all public information, please come in and talk to us. I'm here to help and walk through the process if you need to go through it to see why did I issue that permit. I'm not trying to hide anything.
So is the permit at the new city hall all done and good and
I
paid
haven't
for?
received
and-
anything from them.
You haven't?
Nope.
I thought they were going in the day after we approved that.
Who's that? Who's
They
on
haven't
that?
come talk to me yet.
Anybody on that committee up here?
So just FYI, they don't have to get a permit.
Right. Well, no, but I thought that was
I can
agreement that they were gonna.
I can issue them a
I'll make
non-fee
a
permit
call.
just to make sure that they're following all the requirements. Because
Yeah.
while they don't need a permit, I would encourage any public entity that's out there that's building to make sure they're following the rules. And the only way to follow the rules is come and talk to me.
All right. Well, I'm glad I asked. I thought they were here. I thought he was on his way over there.
That's all I have then.
Thanks
Thanks, John.
for the update and
Thank you.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask Dave to give the first couple here.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. First item under Public Works is an update on Perkins Road, and understood that the property owners have signed their contract assessments for that project, so that news came via the city attorney tonight, so I think that bodes well for the project moving forward. We look for your authorization to continue with that process and plans and specs proceeding with Perkins Road.
Do you have any hopes of getting anything started this year with that?
No grading per se, but clearing and grubbing is still a possibility.
Okay, well, are we gonna do it?
Their paperwork or something? What are we supposed to, what's the motion? What's the request?
Just to authorize
Well,
them to
this
move
one's not
forward.
following chapter 429, so it's, I'm just looking for council consensus to continue with plans and specs. And get it out to bid, so.
I'd say so.
So, yeah, you looking for a motion or just a consent? Motion? All right, I'll make a motion to move forward.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is a resolution for Daggett Bay Road, which we had the public hearing at 6 p.m. this evening. This resolution orders the improvement project in, and authorizes the engineer to prepare the plans. So we're asking you to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it, but I've got a question. Should either of those corner properties be addressed in conjunction with that? How they, when they have to...
How they're configured for their services?
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily slows down this project, because the assessments wouldn't change under what I was thinking. The P&Z need to have, or not P&Z, the Public Works on October 4th needs to consider whether they want to modify the connection part of it. That won't change the project, the assessment methodology, anything else. It's just, will there be exceptions to the connection requirement within a year? That's a Public Works debate at start. Maybe it'll come back to the council in the end. But that wouldn't change, in my mind. Well, it might, as a council member, you might not want to vote for it unless they did that, I suppose. But this isn't, you haven't gotten all the way to assessments yet.
Yeah.
You have a chance to do that yet.
I just gotta mention that after hearing the comments today, I want to ask Ted and Dave, both of you, how much of a can of worms would it be to go past the city property and stop the project, cut the road surface there, and just do what the city is required until we design and move forward on the rest of it? I know that's kind of a thing, but we all heard those people and their difficulties with it.
Yeah, we believe it's, in our opinion, the correct decision to complete it all the way to Brook Street. It's a complete project, then completing the road itself, which has been on the list for quite some time for reconstruction. And it sets it up cleanly for the next phases of sanitary sewer extension.
So what do you take in consideration of what some of the people had to say about it, though? I mean, there's some hardship that we're creating, and just let it go and
Yeah.
move forward. And
Well, that's the purpose for the public hearing, so we can hear that. If there's something that we can change that minimizes the impact to somebody, yet accomplishes the goals and objectives of the project, then we'll make those changes. And if it's location of a service or determination, after discussion at the Public Works level, that we'll pick that property up with sewer on the extension, then that decision gets made.
so October 4th, we're having a meeting?
7th, isn't it?
7th or 4th?
The 14th is Monday.
For the first Monday.
Yeah.
It should be the 7th.
7th.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about that.
Shar, can you, 3 people that were here tonight on that assessment list, We just told them the 4th. So can you maybe mail them, or, I don't, there's only 6 people that, I can tell you who they were after tonight, but can we mail them something, just remind them it's not the 4th, it's the 7th?
We're confused on the date, yeah.
I told Lucy it was the first month, or first Monday of the month.
You did, and then we gave them conflicting information, yeah.
Okay, well, my just thought is, we're coming 10 feet into Daggett Bay Road right now where we stopped in '03, and we're gonna pick it up and go. If we go 150 feet or 300 feet on the road and stop past City Hall, is that the end of the world to do it? And because we do have a petition coming for an extension, and then that would be a bigger project, and I know.
I think you're only affecting 2 people, because Lucy would be affected if you're going up to City Hall. She would still be in that.
Well, she wouldn't have to be,
Well-
if we're gonna move forward with it.
If you're fixing the road up in front of her house, she is affected.
Yeah, well.
You know, the other thing too is, based on the soil borings that were done out there, we know that there's dewatering that's going to be involved with the project, and that is a costly item. So if you started out and you go 150 feet at a time, that's costs that you can save by just getting it all done in that one segment. And then by the time we get to Brook Street, we're getting out of the groundwater. So,
Lucy just made the comment that you may have to sell, and that kind of, this has come fast on them, so.
We've done the engineering drawings, we've done the assessment report, you've done the survey, you've done the borings.
Yeah, I know. All right.
yeah, and Chapter 429 does have the deferred option there for the city council's consideration. There's language and rights that are given to certain people that meet the criteria, so that's at the council's disposal if there's a specific case that you need to look at, so.
Okay, well,
Okay.
So does that mean like on assessments, we can extend the time
Well,
for hardships?
there's lots of ways to defer. One is, like, if you have bigger lots, I think what he's referring to, there's also just one for seniors. If they apply and they qualify based on their income and age status, and there's a statutory criteria. The way she talked about it, I would guess, I don't know her, but she might qualify.
Okay.
And then that would be deferred, and she wouldn't have to pay it now. She wouldn't get kicked out of her home, if that really is the difference between her paying, and it might be, I have no idea, between, making the bills and not. Does that answer what you were?
Yeah, it does. We might want to, can you dig that out, or somebody find out
We
what
have
that
it
is?
readily available.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
There's a motion, a second, right?
Yep.
okay, a motion second to move forward with it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, item C, update on CASA 66 stormwater study. That there's 2 studies that were done. One, I think, just got done by Bolton and Mink on the project where the sanitary sewer is going, so is that the update?
I think so, I think that's the one.
agenda.
That's the one that's here.
Phil, I think. Do it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Phil Martin with Bolton and Mink. Yes, you retained us to work with Melissa Barrick from Soil and Water to get the study completed so she could put an application in to Bowser for clean water funds. So she submitted that today, was due today. She's requesting $315, well, the amount of the project through collaboration with Old Log Landing, Log Church, City Hall, Simonson Lumber, and then working over in the Moonlight Square area is a $315,000 project. And she's seeking funding in that amount minus a 25% match, which is required with the application. So bottom line, we got it submitted, she'll know more in December. Any questions on that? I believe the study you can find, is it online or it was with the Public Works Committee? I could submit you a copy if you wanted to put it
in a position to be read by everyone else.
So we don't know how much of that is our liability and how much the county's gonna take? or
Nope.
We don't know what that is?
Not yet. That's a negotiation yet to happen. That was the original position of the county. They didn't want to take the lead on cleaning up their discharge to the lake, but they would be willing to consider being a contributor to it. The city took the lead with Soil and Water.
And they've set precedent.
Okay.
I guess next one is just information. We are having a public information meeting for the CASA 66 Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. That's the one up from City Hall to Moonlight Bay, Moonlight Square area. That's Tuesday of next week at 6 o'clock. We've reserved the council chambers. We have a notice that was sent out by city staff to residents. I've had one email, so I know it got out. And what our purpose there is, so we're going and doing the preliminary engineering, working towards feasibility study along with the chapter or statute 429 process. We want to have a public information meeting, give more information out to the property owners, take input from them, and just kind of continue to add communication as to what's going on. With their information we would then work towards finishing a mock assessment, including the feasibility report, that we provide that to the city council, seeking your acceptance of that feasibility report, and then scheduling a date to have a public improvement hearing to discuss the mock assessment and to take input from the public again. So trying to move forward with this so the city can have the information in front of it as to make a decision ultimately as to what the cost would be, what the cost responsibility would be, and whether you want to proceed with the project or not.
You think it's a good idea for the council to be there if they're able to?
It's a great idea.
Okay.
If not to act, just to listen.
Yeah.
To hear what you had one tonight? Yeah, same thing. You're going to hear probably people opposed, don't want to spend the dollars.
You're going to
got
be
a great-
sitting here though, right?
What's that?
You're going to be sitting here.
I don't know if that's how you handle it. I'd like it to be just an open
It's not a council
discussion.
meeting.
There's no action, it's taking input.
Okay.
You know,
17th, next Tuesday.
17th at 6 o'clock.
I
And
will
we'll bring
not be
info.
there. I'm on vacation.
If you can.
Sorry, I would notice, if you probably already thought of that, but if there's more than 3, I would notice it that way, yeah.
It's kind of wise, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she was already prepared for that. She
I'm
put her
guessing
notice
she was,
already.
but-
And then finally, I am looking for action on this one. Thank you. So this fits in line with our discussion earlier. I think it's the same thing that Dave dealt with at one of your meetings last week. So we are following the 429 process, and even though about a month or two ago, you retained us to go to the next level of getting the feasibility done, having the public information meeting, work on a mock assessment, we should get our ducks in a row and get a resolution actually ordering us to prepare that feasibility study, so we have it in the record that you as a council considered this and resolved to have us proceed.
I so move.
I'll second it.
And is this sanitary and storm, or just sanitary?
This is just sanitary. You
Just
haven't
san-
discussed if you're assessing the storm. That has not come up. This is just sanitary.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Phil.
Just to add one thing, the solar borings for the sanitary sewer project were done last week. Some of you seen the drilling rig doing that along CASA 66 here. One other thing is that about 8 weeks ago, you gave us permission to buy a new switchgear for the wastewater plant, because we had a switchgear that just was not doing what it was supposed to. Last Friday morning at 12 in the morning, I was at work with the Holden Electric, and the new switchgear was in, and 4 hours later, it was up and functioning, and it went flawlessly. So now I'm going to look into selling the switchgear that is brand new that we can't use. We might be able to get some money out of it, but I'll bring that back to you at another time. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Perfect.
Can we give them approval now?
You could declare, you could request to have it declared as surplus.
If you want to give me that permission now, that'd be great. I don't have a dollar. I just heard rumors what it's worth. I don't have a dollar to give you, but
Get as much as you can.
I'll make that motion to allow you to sell it as surplus
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
by Friday.
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thanks, Ted. All right, we got another public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda for a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Anybody out there? Public forum is closed. City attorney report. Nothing. Old business, new business, anybody have anything? Okay, a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming, folks.